Today I am talking about recognizing your opponent's resources, developing preventive thinking by Mark Dvoretsky. This is one of the hardest books I've ever read, one of the best books as well, especially for where I am right now. I would say you need to be about 2,300 FIDE for this book to help you. It is very difficult. All told, I spent about 80 to 90 hours doing this book. It took me months. I actually took a break in between to read Dvoretsky's older book that I also reviewed here, which was School of Chess Excellence, Tactical Play. Now, first a quick difference between the two. Tactical Play was an older book written really before the computer. That book, if you're somebody who's hurt by problems that aren't perfect because your computer tells you something different, I don't have a problem with that. I think it's actually very interesting because you're getting human analysis. That's the key difference one of the key differences between that book and this book, Preventive Thinking, because this was written later, checked with the computer. Okay, so I wanted to put that out there first. Let's talk about prophylaxis. Notice that the title talks about preventative thinking, which is a little bit of a tongue twister. And it sounds like prophylaxis when you're first starting to read the book, but I think there's an important difference. First of all, a little bit about prophylaxis. I feel like Nimzovich's idea of prophylaxis is one of the deepest concepts in the game. And simply put, if we can stop our opponent from achieving their strategic aims, that is not simply a defensive action, but it's an action that will lead to our own offense. And Nimzovich talks about that beautifully. And the last 154 exercises of this book, the final chapter, I would say pertain to that kind of prophylaxis. Okay, but the book is definitely not just that. And I think it speaks to more modern chess, what the book is trying to achieve, and definitely it helped me in this regard as I'm preparing for some big tournaments coming up. So the idea of preventative thinking is to say, look, yes, strategic, that's fine. But what we're really talking about is honing our mind for looking for our opponent's deep tactical resources. And something I want to stress, one of the reasons this book is so hard is it's much more difficult to think about what the opposing side has in their pocket rather than your own. Not only just because of an ego thing, but just it's a redirection. Let's say you have the advantage, or maybe you don't have the advantage, but you have to tease out what the opponent might be doing tactically as well as strategically. It's a much harder task than trying to do it yourself. And these exercises will push you to the limit in that regard. And so I think the big picture takeaway for me for the book is it's fine to say, for example, oh, you should pay attention to your opponent's resources. It's fine to say. But what the book is doing is training you through hundreds of exercises to really flip your orientation toward your opponent instead of yourself. And it's a beautiful thing. And I think, for example, when you think about modern chess, you could talk about, say, the space advantage. The space advantage, playing with it, is really all about containing your opponent, seeing what your opponent can do, how can they break out. Prophylactic or preventative thinking. And it's the modern way of chess. It's not just strategic anymore, the preventative thinking that we're doing. And it's kind of like the next level. And I feel my chess has slipped recently, and this is great because it helps me get back to where I think I was at some point. And it's an energetic thing as well. It just demands so much stamina to sit through these problems and really do that kind of thinking. So this is a little bit of a how-to manual. The problems in these chapters, there's 4 chapters, they all kind of begin easier, not very easy, but easier, and then get harder and harder and harder to the point where it's almost impossible. And just for myself, hopefully this will be helpful to you, I start off with giving myself 10 minutes for each problem. Sometimes I go over if it, but in general, 10 minutes because my coach, KGB, doesn't want me to think longer than 10 minutes, right? But towards the end, dude, oh my God, 15 minutes. And some of the studies in particular in this book are so hard that I was staring at them for hours, just for hours, and I didn't get it, dude. There was many I just was like, I can't get it. And there are things in here that are really that difficult. And so if you want to do this book, I just want to put it out there. It will be a very difficult experience. There might be tears along the way. You might have to put it down because you're frustrated. But the payoff, I think, is not only becoming a better player, but really gaining a deeper insight into what chess is. And for me, that's developing Nimzovich's original idea of prophylaxis as being a strategic prophylaxis into one where you're looking into deep tactical resources of your opponent. So there it is, Recognizing Your Opponent's Resources by Mark Dvoretsky.